Hello, welcome back. This is going to confuse you because I'm filming the intro after I filmed the outro, and I filmed the outro after I'd finished playing the Spectrum version of the game, but the Amstrad version is the first one that you're going to see. It's Barbarian by Palace Software, released in 1987. One-on-one fighting game. Was really successful, so I want to show you the Amstrad, followed by the Commodore 64, followed by the BBC Micro, which I was surprised to find had a version of it. And then bringing up the rear is the humble ZX Spectrum. Now, on the last couple of videos that I have done, I've noticed that the camera has had some really quite significant issues with autofocus. I hope I've fixed that now. I won't know until I've put everything together in Movie Maker. But please, when you're watching it, please let me know if it's an improvement over the last couple of videos, because it was really quite disappointing to sort of see that, and I think really it sort of ruined those videos really, especially the Spectrum segment of Cobra and the Commodore 64 segment for Flying Shark? Yeah, for Flying Shark. It was really disappointing, and you know, I was annoyed about that. So please let me know if this is any better. Right, as ever, as we go through, pipe up with your memories, etc. of the games, particularly the version that you are familiar with, and particularly also what you think of the versions you've never seen before. Okay, let's get on with it. Amstrad, yep, definitely the Amstrad coming up first. See you in a bit. Hello, welcome back. Right, here we are, Amstrad version of Barbarian from Palace Software in 1987. Now, I'm playing this in the actual sort of like the actual quest mode, if you like, which means I'm going to be sort of like trying to get through to Drax at the very end and rescue the lovely Maria Whittaker. But we'll see how we go. Now, I do have some experience with the Amstrad version of this way back in the day, and as you can see already, it's really got some nice, really nice, crisp, colourful graphics. Let's get into it, see how it plays. Oh, first we've got to select what mode we want to play. Right. Okay, here we are. Now, the Barbarian theme song there. Now, this is really, although it's one of my favourite games, it's actually in essence really sort of quite basic. There's only a few moves controlled with the up, down, left, right and the fire button. And look at that, straight off I have got a decapitation. Yes, yes, yes. And I've been trying to get that for about 20 minutes, and that's the first one. Wow, brilliant. That never gets old, the sort of goblin walking along and kicking the head away. That's really fantastic. Right, okay, here we go. We're on to the next round, I think. Yes, we are. Oh, bloody hell, cat, get out of the way. Move. Move. Get out. Wait. Right, so yeah, the graphics on the Amstrad version are really nice, and the game moves really well. Nice sounds, nice crunching sound effects whenever you sort of like make a contact, etc. And a nice ping like that when you parry a blade. And you know, it's like I said, it's really sort of quite a basic game, but always had great fun with it. And in two-player, it's really good fun as well. It's even better fun in two-player. Now, the great thing about the sort of flying neck chop is, you know, you can deploy that, and if it's successful, even if you're being battered, obviously it's an instant win, and it is so great, even today when it happens. That oh, right, okay, I'm getting a bit of a pound in here. Oh, there we go. No, this one's he's gonna have me. Unless I can pull something out of the bag here. Oh, nearly had it. Oh dear, I'm dead. Yeah, there is also kind of like a practice mode. There's various different backgrounds in it. I'll show you those in a minute. As you can see, the game is really sort of quite simple, but I consider it a classic, one of my favourite games, because it doesn't take a lot to be very good at it. But having said that, I've just been really crap at it. Right, we'll have another go at this, then I'll show you some of the other sort of modes. Oh, helps if you press start, doesn't it? So yeah, Amstrad fans, particularly interested in your memories of your version of this game, and whether or not you played it on any other machines, such as the Commodore or the Spectrum, or even the 16 bits. I've never played any of the 16-bit versions. The only ones I've ever played are the ones you are seeing in these segments. Oh, come on, I want to chop your head off, mate. Come on, play fair. This is getting really difficult because I've got the camera on the tripod, and I've got the bloody kitten wandering around all over the place, being a pain in the arse. And he won't go away. Go away, Milo, go away. But yeah, so interested to hear your thoughts and comments on what you make of this version. Similarly, anyone else, if you're a Commodore owner, Spectrum owner, BBC Micro owner, what you think of the Amstrad version, if this is the first time you're ever seeing it. Now, yeah, great fun, but, you know, like I said, quite sort of limited in its scope. There's no need for this sort of segment to... Oh, yes, there we go again, another flying neck chop, brilliant. Right, okay, this was just really a taster to show you what the game's like. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you one of the other sections of the game, just so you can see some sort of like different backgrounds, because it's not all this same scenery. Okay, back in just a millionth of a second. Okay, here we are again, a sort of slightly different background, a very, very nice background. I mean, everything about the Amstrad version of Barbarian is really nice. Just look at the details on the sides, the way the animation on the snakes, etc. Your health, of course, is represented by those red dots. Oh, nearly had your sunshine. Yeah, it's really, really nice. It's just a game about two men in their pants in the woods. You know, nothing funny about that. With their big swords. Oh, come on. Oh, nearly got him. Twice nearly got him. He should be missing sort of like 2/3 of his head by now, if it if the game was to imitate real life. But of course we know it doesn't. Get out of it. Really, really good, fun game. And there we go. There's nothing beats a flying neck chop. It's great fun. Try and zoom in just a little bit more so we can see a bit more. Yeah, some really nice detail all throughout the game. Now, send in your thoughts about Barbarian 2. There's no way I'm covering that game. I really, really despise that game. Much like Fist 2, they sort of took the one-on-one fighting element out of it and sort of turned the game into a sort of arcade adventure, and it, you know, for me it didn't really work, and I found it far, far too difficult, and I really didn't enjoy it, and I thought it was really disappointing. But there will be some people out there who like it, so please send in your thoughts on that one. Come on! Oh, he's back again. Will you go away? Do one. Get out of it. Right, yeah, we're just going to finish this bit and then we'll move on. Oh, kicked me in the balls. There we go. You snooze, you lose, Sonny Jim. Let's move that over a bit. Yeah, brilliant, brilliant moment, that. The head-kicking goblin. Right, okay, yeah, let's move on. Let's have a look at the Commodore 64 version now. Hello, welcome back. Right, we are now at the Commodore 64 version of Barbarian. You saw the Amstrad. Let's have a look and see what this is like. So I want to select one player and we'll start the game. Right, I want the music off though, so I can't remember what button it is because it mutes out the sound effects. Yeah, come on in. Where are we all? There we go. Right, so now I would liken the sounds of the Commodore version to snooker balls hitting each other. They're sort of quite sort of oh, there goes his head. Now listen to the goblin on this version. What a piss taker, eh? Yeah, the graphics on the Commodore 64 version, as you can see, are much blockier, and the colours are sort of more washed out than the Amstrad version. The Amstrad ones were really, really crisp. I am, of course, as you can see, playing the sort of Quest version of the game. The Amstrad version was just, you know, the sort of practice mode, if you like. But it's more or less the same game, just different backgrounds. So I thought it might be nice to sort of change things up a bit. But yeah, it looks worse than the Amstrad version. It doesn't sound as great, but it still plays really, really well. You know, so was this a popular game for the Commodore 64 back then? I mean, fighting games were the rage and very, very popular, and it was riding the crest of that particular wave. But as I said in the Amstrad version, you know, it is a very, very limited game. But 2 players, it was really, really good fun. So, you know, let's see what else happens here. I'm not going to play it much longer because there's not a real need to do these gameplay segments for hours. Oh, come on. Whoa, that's 3 heads in a row. I used to, when I had it on the Spectrum, I used to practice just by playing 2-player mode, but just with me, and I just repeatedly just chop heads off, and you could pause it right at the second that the sort of head disconnected from the neck, and I used to like sort of doing that and say, oh, hey, he's just nutted me, that's not fair. Now there are, as I've said, that it's got a fairly sort of limited range of moves, and everyone just sort of gravitates towards that flying neck chop, which, you know, doesn't often work on the sort of later skill levels of opponents, and usually it ends up as just a case of you just back each other into a corner or whatever, and try and twat the fuck out of each other. Oh, he's going to do me. But yeah, it's, you know, it's very, very playable. It's got all the right sort of elements. Just like I say, the sort of these sound effects aren't particularly great, but they're not awful either. So that's all I really needed to sort of do to show you the Commodore 64 version. Let's move to the BBC Micro. Okay, right, here we go. We're going to have a look at Barbarian for the BBC Micro, which was released by Superior Software, not Palace Software. Right, let's get it loaded up. You'll see a really, really garish loading screen there, if I can just sort of show you that. But, you know, it's okay. They both look like they've been out in the sun for far too long. Let's get this going. Do we want to redefine our keys? Of course we bloody do. I don't want that set up. So I want O, P, Q, A and space, and I have any old rubbish for player 2 because there isn't a player 2. Right, so let's have a fight to the death, and right, see what you make of this. I've played this for a while, and when your eyes first sort of settle upon it, it makes you think, oh my god, look at the state of that. But bear with me on this, because it's actually not that bad. It's not great. You can see everyone is very, very yellow. And look, there goes the head. It's even got the decapitations. So that's brilliant. It just bounces straight up and down. But it still is a decapitation. It counts. It makes it a decent version of Barbarian. Now, the graphics, yeah, they're really quite garish. There's no animation in the snakes to the side there. Yeah, there's... but all the moves seem to be here. Which is good. Just got to remember what they are. Oh, I'm getting duffed up proper here by the purple man. Right. Okay, so we've swapped sides on that. Now it's running really quite fast. If you sort of like look at that, perhaps a little bit. Oh, I was going to say perhaps a little bit too fast there, but it's playing really, really, really well. And the thing of it is that if you saw screenshots of this in a magazine or something, you'd go, ha ha, look at that. Or if you saw a video of it on YouTube, you'd take the piss out of it. But actually, it plays really quite sort of nicely. Enjoying it, because I was surprised that I was when I first played it, I was surprised that I actually found myself enjoying it, because, you know, the last couple of games I've BBC games I've played, I haven't sort of enjoyed too much. That being Paperboy, Commando, were really poor advertisements for the machine. But this is, oh, there we go, I'm dead already. This is really quite clever. I'm not sure how well the pink is showing up there. There, of course, is Drax in the background. But the characters are really quite vividly pink. Let's just zoom in a little bit more. We'll have one more go at that before we move on to the final version, which will be the Spectrum. So yeah, I don't think you'd have been disappointed at all as a BBC owner with this. You know, it was a big game back in, I think it was, yeah, back in 1987. So to have found yourselves included. Now this transition from side to side, when, you know, one of you rolls and the other one jumps over, happens really quickly on the BBC version. So sort of almost confuses you that it's happened, because it's more or less instantaneous. But it's, you know, everything is moving really well. It's a bit Spartan sound-wise, but, you know, doesn't really need... As long as it's got a nice thud when the head flies off, that's all you want, really, isn't it? There's some frames of animation missing from some of the moves, but I'm quite enjoying this on the BBC Micro. So, that's it. That's all I really need to sort of show you of this, just to show you what the game is like. So, we move on to the Spectrum. Okay, here we go. The Spectrum version of Barbarian. Now, this is obviously the version I'm most familiar with. I am also familiar with the Amstrad version because I played it on my mates, and we would play my Spectrum version as well. When I sort of got back into the Spectrum about 5 years ago through sort of like discovering emulation, etc., the first games I sort of looked for were not the sort of Jet Set Willy, Manic Miner, etc. It was this and Xeno, another game that I loved sort of back in the day, and I'm going to compare the other versions of. Right, let's get into it on the Speccy. Well, I'd be grateful if this bloke could oblige me and just stand still so I could cut his head off, so I could show you a flying neck chop on all 4 versions. It's, you know, the graphics, although not as colourful as the backgrounds are colourful, and the animations on the snakes in particular are really nice. But obviously, hey, there we go. I can die happy. That's one more off the bucket list. The other ones are Snogger, Sugar Babe, and I'm not telling you the rest. Right, there we go. We're in the sort of second bit now. You've got Maria looking on there, sort of like not showing much enthusiasm for the peril I'm putting myself through. Yeah, the graphics are really nicely detailed. They're not as blocky as the Amstrad sort of graphics. Although I do like the graphical style of the Amstrad version. Oh! Let me just get you in the corner and kick the shit out of you, mate. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, sort of like... can't remember what I was going to say there. I got engrossed in the moment. Oh! Yeah, it took... it was one of the few games I sort of mastered, because at the end of this sort of like quest mode, I think you fight sort of 10 different opponents, and then Drax at the very end, and he fires fireballs, and it was one of the few games I sort of ever completed. Because it's quite simple to complete, he says. Look at that, down to no energy. But yeah, just share your memories, Spectrum lovers, of what this is like, what you loved about it, what you hated about it, and also what you make of the other versions. There really isn't much more to show, so there's no point sort of going and making this segment sort of like last any longer. So we're going to go to the outro. Hello, welcome back. Right, there you go, 4 versions: Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, BBC Micro, and the ZX Spectrum versions of Barbarian from Palace Software. Although the BBC version was released by Superior Software. Now, I'm sorry I got distracted in a couple of segments there. We've got our kitten downstairs, and he's being an absolute swine, if you know what I mean. He's running all over the place, he's getting on my nerves, he's jumping up and down off things. But yeah, so what are my thoughts and impressions? Well, starting with the Amstrad version, really love that version of the game. It's really I liked it back in the day when I used to play it on my mate David's computer. I really enjoyed it today. It's really nice trip down memory lane. Beautiful, colourful graphics, bit blocky, great sound effects, etc. Now the Commodore 64 version played equally well, really nice, but as I said in the segment, colours were very washed out and the graphics were dark, and the sound effects were a bit like two snooker balls sort of like hitting each other on a table. But not a bad game at all. I was really surprised by the BBC Micro version of the game. I thought, you know, I was surprised and happy because the last couple of things I've put through the BBC Micro have been awful. Commando and what was the other one? Paperboy. They were really crap, and I'm glad to see that it got a really good version of Barbarian. Yeah, okay, it was limited and it was stripped back, but all the bits that make it Barbarian were happily in there, including the flying neck chop. Really enjoyable, and the Spectrum version is the one that I sort of like know and love the most because it's what I played the most back in the day. The graphics are very detailed, despite there obviously not being as many colours, but the backgrounds, the animations, all really good, and it played as good as I remembered it. But I'd have to say, if you would have put me on the spot, that I really thought the Amstrad version was the sort of the great version out of the lot. They're all really good, okay, but I really did enjoy the Amstrad version there. I thought it was very nice to look at. Now I don't know the 16-bit versions. Please tell me what they're like if you've played them. Okay, thanks ever so much for making it this far. If you liked the video, please let me know. If you wish to subscribe, please do so. But if you do subscribe, please take the time to join in with the conversations. What it's all about. Thank you ever so much for watching. Take care. Goodbye.